All right. Hello. Hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents podcast, where we talk about how to build wealth like the 1%. And I am super ecstatic. I'm pumped, appreciative, all the words to have Mr. Jerome Maldonado here with us again, or round two for an interview. If you don't know Jerome, man, just Google for a moment. You'll find him in a few different spots. He is the host of the Real Estate Domination 2022. You need to be there in Vegas in November. Speaking with Mr. Emmett Smith and Cody Sperber, Ty Lopez, all the people, the finest crowds that he draws. But he's a real estate investor. He's a developer. They've done about $100 million plus of just development, real estate deals. 2022, he's crushing it. That for many years he's been doing it. So he's laid a great foundation for a lot of other people to kind of follow. He helps people through it and shares the wisdom and education. So we're excited to have him. And Mr. Jerome, thanks for joining, bro.
Abel, what's up, bro? You're killing it as well, man. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, man, we're definitely working hard, man. We aspire to be like have a lot of success and make sure our investors do well alongside us, man. So
yeah, we're killing it.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, before we get started, so I want to make sure that in your own words, like, just tell the listener, tell our audience, like, who the heck you are and what you do in your own words. Because, man, I try to put a short intro there. There's so much more to you, bro. And I really appreciate just learning as much as I have from you the past couple of years, man.
You know what, bro? I'm really just a business entrepreneur at heart. I started years ago, back in 1993, in sales and network marketing. And in 1998, I got into construction. 1999, I started getting into real estate, and just as an investment. And it wasn't really a means for anything more than just an investment. And the construction and the real estate kind of married each other in about 2001. And we started doing little developments, and it grew to a nice little $20-30 million business by 2008. We almost got taken under and swept under a rug, and we didn't. We thank God, And so here we sit. We pulled out of that strong. What we learned was so advantageous. It really helped us set up for what we're going through right now, and we're doing a lot of multifamily. We're attacking the affordable housing sector, which is much needed, and we're doing a lot of build up multifamily development right now, build and hold. And it's just been a great, since 2016, we started doing this, and it's been just a great business model. And it's really serving the nation and our communities really, really well. So we're loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So from network marketing to, entrepreneur sales, and then on to as an investor, and just kind of kept going, man. That's awesome. So we're along the same path, myself and you. It's just grinding, and then trying to figure some of these things out. And maybe a few years behind you, but we're working hard to catch up, man. So it's great. Where did you grow up? What state? What area?
I grew up in Albuquerque. I grew up in the South Valley down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was on the other side of the train tracks. Great, best area of town to live in. We grew up in cornfields and irrigation ditches, dirt bikes, and and BMX bikes, skateboards, and so it was great way to live, great way to grow up.
That's awesome. And it sounds like, you're similar to my background. We didn't come from wealth. You didn't have a wealthy, I guess maybe super, wealthy family to learn some of this stuff. You had to figure it out on your own. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, that's completely accurate. My parents were good. They came from really slow beginnings. When I say real slow beginnings, just because financially, I'd say financially slow beginnings. Really loving families, but really slow financially, up and coming. And my parents just did the traditional. They did that traditional: go to work, go to school, get an education, and they sold it to us. We bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And I was like the black sheep. I kind of took that black path, along my entrepreneurial journey. And so here we sit, and it's been good, bro. And what's cool is, as we sit here, I can't help but look around, and I look around a lot of new people, and even people that have been in the business for a little while. And I know that people one thing I know about a lot of people right now is they're sitting back, scratching their head going, can I get through this? How can I benefit from it? How can I win during this crazy market post-pandemic? And so, so there's a lot happening right now. Really cool stuff.
Yeah. Those are some good topics to jump into because, one, if you came from just, humble means, I did the same. My parents are hardworking individuals, a lot of determination, perseverance. For me, they drove faith into me all the way, my grandparents to now. And it's been a big part of us. But one thing that, we never really learned beyond my dad telling us we need to save money, it was the figure out how to multiply it, how to create wealth. And then once we had it, preserve it. Right. So that's what we like to talk a lot, about on the show. And a lot of us are real estate investors because we're trying to create that wealth. We're trying to do that. But right now, as we're talking about investing, man, there's a lot of worries. There's a lot of fears, a lot of concerns, doubt, all the things, that people are thinking about. Recessionary times, inflationary period, interest rates are rising, Fed's hitting us in the face with these, 50 and 75 basis, interest rate hikes. And we're like, God, what does the average person do? And then maybe if we have some means, like, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of the same fears, worries, and concerns, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Our parents wear that stuff, right? Like, and that's the biggest issue is when we're out here doing what we do on a regular basis. I know you guys are taking down acquisitions and multifamily, big ones. I've seen a lot of what you guys have done and are doing. And it's always impressive, and I know our parents didn't have that means. My parents watched the news 10 o'clock every night. When I was growing up, you hear the news come on 10:30, it shut off. And then the theme song to MASH would come on, right?
You knew it was time for bed, man. You knew it was time for bed.
You're like, okay, turn off the lights and it's time to roll around and grab that pillow. But those are the beginnings we came from. My parents still do that today, and for us battling the fact that really over 95% of our population do that, really we're working, and then 3% are ultra wealthy. We're dealing with 2% of our population who really embraces what we're doing and wants self-education and wants to be able to do what you and I are doing. And I know some of your listeners are already doing it, but there's a lot of them that aren't. And so we're really talking to like 2% of our population as we do this. So if you're listening to this, I'm assuming if you're following Able's podcast, it's because you're looking at being able to drive more into real estate in the multifamily space and some of the other investment sectors around it, and learn from some of us black sheep that have been lucky enough to work hard enough to figure it out, I guess is the best way to put it. Wouldn't you say, Abel?
Yeah, man, that's not knocking our heads against the wall sometimes, and then figuring out, we did get through that wall, but somebody on the other side said, oh, there was an easier way, man. There's a door right here, and we learned along the way whether it's the door or bash our heads against it, but one of the two, man. It's like you got to keep going, and that's I love those lessons from my parents, which that was perseverance, like just keep going. And now we're just learning a different thing to keep going towards, right? Because I would love to say all my investments crush it. Every once in a while there's a rough one, and I'm just like, oh, I'm sweating it out. But the truth is, when someone says, hey, aren't you afraid? Aren't you worried about that one? I go, man, absolutely I am. But that's not going to prevent me from continuing to make the next step, right?
Yeah, no, and that's a big piece of it. You reposition, you readjust. In 2008, we did that. We did a lot of readjusting in 2008. I was turning dirt like if every piece of dirt was the last piece of dirt that was going to be developable on this earth. And I really felt like that, And so when you're working when you feel like you're working out of desperation, like frantically, because you're trying to just get ahead, and then all of a sudden the wheels are just turned on. And that's a lot of people, because most people don't come from wealth, and they're trying to figure it out. They want that better lifestyle. And so they're trying to grind it out. And my heart goes out to those that really are action takers, more so than the people that are just watchers. Doers to me are just, I embrace them, because there's a lot of risk involved when you're working as a doer and you're really getting out there trying to make things happen, and you really don't know. Like you're just really trying to figure it out. And those are the people that I think this is really for, especially like in our real estate domination event, those doers that are sitting back going, I got most of it, but I'm missing pieces of this puzzle. Like, how do I find this little missing piece and put it into the puzzle so that I can finish this puzzle piece and move forward, you know? And so I always go like to events. I always go to networking stuff with something in mind. Like, I always go in, okay, I need a ... right? Like, I need something, and I'm going to go find that this weekend or this week, you know? And so anyways, it's a constant learning. This has been 30 years, man. I've been at this for 30 years this year. It'll be 30 years now this next in 2023. 2023. It'll be 30 years, man. It's crazy.
Woo, get it on, bro.
It, you know?
Get it on. Keep going. I love it. Well, let me pause it here because there's a couple things you said on the action taker that keeps moving. Every time I hear, you know, something along those lines, I think of that short. It's not a quote. It's a little longer from Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena, right? It's not the critic who counts, but the man who points to how, you know, the man that's like, hey, I'm taking action, not the critic that's saying, hey, you should have done it this way. You could have done it that way. You could have, you know, hey man, you're not in the battle. Like, you're not in the fray. It's stressful now for me. We're grinding it out. You go criticize someone else, or I don't really want to listen to that. That's always what I think of when I hear of the action taker now. But love it, man. Well, before we move, I want to make sure we hit this because of time. You mentioned something else that I think is super important. The education, the mindset, being around other people that are taking action, that are doing, and we're trying to learn from. So it's not the watchers, but the people that are taking action. For those of you that are listening, like, I wanted Jerome to come on, and it's timely because there's a huge event that we're all going to in Vegas. It's in November, and with some amazing speakers we talked about. I'm going to let Jerome talk a little bit about it, but it's these events, networking, education, conference, seminar. When I was in the professional world, I would say, oh, where are we going? Like, oh, we're going to Vegas. Okay, cool. I've been there a few times. And I always thought it was fun to have, you know, drinks, networking, whatever, when I was younger, and like wanted to get out there. And I kind of dismissed this educational part because in the professional world, it was like how to be a better salesperson or learn this new technical thing. I would go to tech events and when I worked there, but it wasn't as important as now. Now I'm like, now I go to events and I want to have a little bit of fun, but I'm like in the front, early with my coffee, got my food. I'm like taking notes. There's a lot of education. I'm learning mindset and also other strategies because now it's not this job that I'm working for. It's like our business. And it's so much more meaningful when I go to these conferences now versus when I was in the professional career. But man, why don't you tell us a little bit about the event that you're hosting and who you think it's going to value and what kind of information we're going to share, man?
I'll give you a little bit of the information right now just to kind of splurge a little bit on you guys. And Abel, Mr. Pacheco himself is going to be there. And so those of you guys who are followers and fans of Abel Pacheco here now, you guys will be able to see him raw and live right on stage. And we're bringing in a lot of different people. You know, I'm bringing in a lot of diversification. But you know, a lot of what we do is we started out in the buying land and building houses deal. So we were, you know, making six figures, building every house we built. And we still do that on a very small basis now. It's a smaller part of our business. So we're going to teach that and how to get through a recessionary market. If development is what you're interested in, I'm going to be teaching that. I'm going to move into what I call the big picture, which is part of what you're doing in the multifamily space, but we do it from the ground up perspective. We did the syndication and value add stuff back in 2016 through 19. And then I decided to start building because of the amazingly rapidly growing industry, low cap rates and so forth. And I was just able to build them for so much more profitability and walk into them with much larger cap rates. And so I'm going to teach that stuff on Saturday and talk to you guys about the big picture of multifamily development and the need for it. You know, I know that a lot of people are really worried right now, Abel. And one of the big things is we want to crush that. And the way we're going to crush that is explaining to you guys simple stuff like this. You know, I talk to people about real economics, and I talk about people who are really running the country and really people who aren't. You know, you take a look at people like our president, who for so many years ran our country, And then you look at people like Jerome Powell, or the CEO of BlackRock, and Larry Finch, and you sit back and you go, okay, those are the two men that are really running our country. Most people that are listening to this podcast right now are sitting back going, whoa, what are you talking about, Jerome? Like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to go over all that. There's bigger economics, and really everything that we're going through right now really only comes down to one thing, and it's supply and demand. Inflation is because of supply and demand. High interest rates are because of supply and demand. You go back and you just look pre-July, and a crate to get it from China to here was costing over $20,000. And now, just this last month, crates have went down to just under $7,000. Crude oil, it was over $120 a barrel. Now we're at like $95 a barrel, give or take, depending what day you look at it. So we're down like 26% on crude oil. And inflation is going down so rapidly right now. People don't even see it because it's on the forefront. It takes like 60 days for us to see it on the shelves. And then from that 60 days, it takes about another 60 days for the feds to recognize it and go, oh, okay, inflation is down. We're going to start lowering interest rates. So we're going to go over what's happening right now. We just finished a Fed meeting this past Thursday. When you watch this video, if this will be such past. But Abel, I think that interest rates are going to stabilize here as we move towards the event. I think we have a window, and I think that window is about 120 days where you can really get discounted real estate. The problem is, after that 120 days, we're going to go down to a fair market like 2019. If you guys remember 2019, it was just a good market. It wasn't a bad market. It wasn't a crazy historical market like we just went through for the last 2 years. It was just a good, stable market. And so what's going to happen if you don't take advantage of these next 120 days and lock up some real estate for discounted prices, and then as interest rates drop, you're going to not only get discounted prices, but you're going to get good interest rates. And so we're going to talk about all this. Like this little tiny tidbit that I'm giving you guys now it's loaded. Like there's a lot in there. Yeah. And we want to teach that to people. We want to give that to people. So I'm bringing people in like Emmett Smith, who actually is a developer. He owns E. Smith Realty, but he also owns Legacy Development. And who most people don't know, he was mentored by Roger Starbuck, who sold his company for over $600 million, his real estate development company.
Nice. No, I had no idea. I'm excited to hear Emmett talk, man.
Yeah, so that's why I'm
excited for all the things.
Yeah, he's real. He's real in the real estate space. He worked for Starbuck Enterprises for multiple years after he finished in the NFL, and got mentored by Roger. And so most people don't know that about even Roger Starbuck, but he's incredibly intelligent. And so we also have Cody Sperber, one of the most sought after single family residential flippers, wholesalers in the online space. We have Ty Lopez, who's one of my business partners in the big box stores, Modell Sporting Goods, Pier 1 Imports, Radio Shack, which we own. He's going to be coming in live for us. We're going to have Cole Hatter, who's the host of Thrive. He does multiple multi-million-dollar real estate transactions, and just a great resource in real estate. We have some syndication professionals coming in that talk like yourself. We have my business partner, Kyle Mitchell. He's coming in, talk about asset management. So we're going to talk to you guys about what I just talked about now, but we're going to expand on all this, how to win, how to like really set yourself up for the next 120 days. And it's crucial. I mean, we got a window, and it's a small window.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited. Let me unpack, one or two things if you're listening, because we've done 200 plus interviews. I met with a bunch of folks, a lot of experts, a lot of knowledge on the show. And what I found is typically every show has a few moments of this really like just valuable wisdom, a nugget of information that, is meant to spur our audience to the next deal, the next multi-million-dollar idea, the next phase in their life. And man, every single show I hear them. And if you're not, I guess, experienced in the podcast side, like you will miss it. So I want to make sure I point this out, because in these shows, 30 minutes, you can't learn how to develop a house in 30 minutes. You can't learn how to invest for, for the next $1 million in a 20-minute snippet. Well, what happens is you hear something that you should be taking to the house. You should be going to your computer, you should be Googling, you should be so focused on. And there was a few that I already heard. It's like, what does this inflationary period mean for interest rates? When the Fed moves interest rates up and they're behind 60 days, they're looking at the CPI information from back in the day. Well, it takes them a moment to maneuver. It doesn't all of a sudden illuminate the path and they say, oh, we're going to lower interest rates. So when that happens in this window that Jerome's talking about, is sellers that need to sell, have to reduce costs and try to figure out a way to get their products, their assets sold or their land sold, or they're worried or fearful, whatever it is. And we have a moment to capitalize in it. And that moment is fleeting. And sometimes it feels like it's like, oh, I should tighten up. Well, that's when others move forward. And, the 3-day session or a couple-day session that we're going to be over there, we're going to when Jerome says I'm going to expand on this, there's multiple people that are going to expand on it for a few hours at a time. That's where like, okay, stuff really starts to sink in. So that's what I want to make sure to highlight, right? It's you're not going to learn how to create $1 million or maybe the next 10 million in a 20-minute window. But what you do is you learn something, you get it, grab onto it, educate yourself, and then you start learning more, let it resonate, and then you're like, boom, I'm going to take action. And we hope that you meet us or see us in November in Vegas, because we're going to have a little bit more time to ruminate on all this stuff as we get, as we learn information and time to take action. So I'm excited, Jerome.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's going to be good. People are going to learn a lot. They're going to be enlightened with what's happening economically. We're going to teach them some real life stuff. Come with your notepads and pens, because this is going to be a real life history lesson, but it's going to be a real life future lesson, right? And so it's going to be fun. I'll tell you, Abel, one of the things I really focused hard on this year is how do you take? Okay, so we go to school, right? So we go to school. You sit back and think about like education in school and lecture, and you sit back and go, damn, I got to sit here through this, and you're falling asleep, right? You go to these conferences. And so one of the things I really tried to focus hard on this year was to also mix in the fun with the education. And so I have some really cool on stage. It's not only just keynote speakers, but we're going to bring some entertainments, like people that are part of like our VIP package on Friday night. We're going to tear down the room. We're going to wine you guys, dine you guys. We're going to feed you guys with the best food that the MGM has. And then we're going to bring on stage entertainment for you guys. And we have some backstage secrets and some panels that we're going to bring in some really heavy hitting information for you guys, but we're going to make it fun. And so we're going to be there, and we're going to party down a little bit till about 11, 12 o'clock at night on Friday night. And then we're bringing in a little bit of entertainment, not only on Friday night, but we just added this week for Saturday night as well. So, anyways, it's going to be a fun event. It's not only going to be a huge education, but it's also going to be a lot of fun. Yeah,
I love it. It's that environment, for a lot of people too, that were wondering, well, how did y'all get into this? How did you start it? Or, I promise you, I didn't come up with these ideas myself. What actually ended up doing was meeting people that were doing something bigger than I was doing, or, greater mission, greater, mindset. They've already been on the other side of that wall. They already banged their head a bunch. And what I was doing was putting myself in a room around other people. And they say this, this term, a lot of people, I missed it for years. Your network is your net worth. And I didn't understand it. I understand it much more today, which is just being in the right room around the right people that are doing something could spark the next, $1 million, $10 million idea and a relationship handshake at one of these events. And, you have a good time and we're laughing and you're like, yeah, I live in Texas. You live there too. Or we're doing this multifamily. Well, we are too. And all of a sudden, new partnership, new opportunity, new avenue of revenue creations just opens up. These are amazing events for that.
Abel, answer me this. Biggest challenge that you feel you had and other people probably that are listening to this podcast have, that is their biggest setback? Not fear, none of that stuff. but really like the one thing that holds most people back. What do you think that number one thing is that really sets people away from starting? What do you think that is?
Man, I'm gonna give you two if I could hold back. I think we have a lot of listeners that are here. Some have wealth and they have money. They just don't have the deal to invest in. They don't know how to evaluate, analyze, look at the property. Man, they made money in other avenues, or they're high net worth earners, but I don't know where to put it. And I'm afraid, I'm worried. The other folks, like, they have the mindset to find the deal, but they don't have capital. They don't have the money to get it started. So I would say that one thing for two different types of listeners on this show is probably that's my guess.
That's perfect. And here's why that's perfect, because one of the big things that most people don't realize is that your next investor, if you're the guy that can find the deals, is at these events. We're going to have close to 600 people there. We're selling 700 tickets. We're more than 50% sold out. I think we're like at 68% sold out as of yesterday. So, we're going to put about 600 people in the chair, 500 to 600 people in the chair. So when you have hundreds of people that are all in the same sector, mindset, direction, whether it's single family, multifamily, and you put them in a room together, the next person that has the capital you need might be sitting right next to you. If you have the capital, but you're scared on how to deploy it, there's going to be an Abel Pacheco sitting right by you that says, hey, I know this syndication world. I just need more money. There's going to be like a Jerome Maldonado, because it's going to be, like what I always tell people is, Abel's, I go, you know what? I'll build the deal. I know the construction side of it. I know how to entitle property. I know how to go to the city. I know how to do zone changes. I know how to do permits. I know how to pull that sucker out of the ground and build it from ground up. But I hated the money raising part of it. And so I would use my own capital. And so there's going to be somebody out there that says, hey, Jerome, I got the capital. And I'm going to say, hey, you know what? You give me the capital, I'll give you a third of my deal and I'll build that sucker for you, So there's going to be a little bit of all of that out there. And you're going to find business relationships, business partnerships, and a lot of networking with really solid people, especially because of our demographics, like, not to put you on the spot, Abel, but how old are you?
I'm 42, I think. Yeah, 79 is when I was born, from San Antonio, Texas, is where I live today. I grew up by the beach in Corpus. So
I'm in my late 40s. I'm pushing on 50 here real quick. And I'll tell you guys that the demographics that we're bringing in are going to be between the ages of and if you're young, get there. Because I started this game when I was 20 years old when I started this game. And I was around a lot of people that were a lot older, a lot more mature than me. And it was a little intimidating, but those people embraced me and they helped me. So if you're young, even though I'm going to quote our demographics here, don't be bashful to show up to this event, because it can be advantageous for you in multiple ways. Okay. Be that one in a million and get there, if you're young. But our demographics truly sit between 35 and 65 years old. So the average age of professionals that are going to be there are going to be between, the mass majority is going to be between that demographics. So we have a lot of really high-end working class professionals and a lot of astute wealth. I got people there that are doing multi-million dollar deals. So.
All right. We're excited. Well, man, for anybody that just the calendar doesn't work for them and they want to get in your world in the future, maybe let's do two things. Tell us where to get a hold of you, and drop, one bit of information that you think would have helped you the most, on a quick soundbite here, man. Tell us where to reach out to you, and one bit of information that's going to blow someone's mind.
So I'm easy to find. I know Abel has my name all over this podcast. All you need to do is Google that name, or just go to any social media platform, punch in my name, and you'll see my photo. And you just click and subscribe and follow. And, my goal is always to make sure I'm hopefully giving you guys current and relevant information that's going to help you in your real estate investment career. But the one thing that I should have done, Abel, long time ago, that I wish I would have done earlier was, and there's actually two things. I wish, and I know people hear this, but they just don't get all of it. I wish I would have went bigger, quicker. And people sit back and go, well, how do you go bigger, quicker? It's through good partnerships and taking the time to be around the right people and good people moving in that direction. I was afraid of partnerships because the partnerships I had when I was broke were really bad. So I was like a solo. I wasn't a solopreneur. I had a staff, but I was like a solo owner of all my companies for so many years, no partners. And it wasn't until 2018 that I finally said, Jerome, you can't grow anymore without help. And in 2018, even though we started this big movement in 2016, is where we really exploded. We went from doing I think by 2018, total gross in-house transactions over the course of like my entire professional career was like at $100 million of total transactions. And now we're doing this year alone, we'll put you just shy of $200 million in development. And so that just kind of goes to show you like what you can do with the right partnerships, right relationships, and growth just comes because the deals are there with the right help, with the right professionals, And so that's what I really wish I would have done years and years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you very much for the insight, and thank you very much for the time, Jerome. It's been amazing, man. We're excited to see you. Shake hands. My wife's coming. She's excited to meet you and your family and everyone else as well. So we're excited on that part. And man, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, Abel, appreciate you having me on here, and appreciate you taking the time to have your guest entertained everything that we have going on in our world, especially with real estate domination coming up. Really appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure to drop those links in the show notes as well. So thank you all. Again, my name is Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the 5 Talents podcast. If you heard something today that changed something for your future in the positive way, go like, subscribe, leave a written review, go reach out to Jerome, do the same. Oh, there, we'd appreciate it. God bless you guys. Talk soon. See ya.